Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Crystal Core Radio. Now, I would appreciate if Elio kept the goblin in frame for the entire. No, you don't have to obviously do that.
My partner got me one of these, and now I keep bringing it. I just can't every excuse to get it on screen.
It's absolutely fantastic. For those of you who are just listening to the audio version of the podcast, thanks for being out there listening to the MP3. Elio was showing off a nice little plush goblin in frame. So you got to be sure to check out the video of this as well, especially because it's now sitting on his head. I know we've already derailed, but let's go around the horn. There's so much to talk about. Media tour, so much more. Elio, welcome back. We're so glad that we could have you back here for especially today, a very auspicious day as we got media tour information. Now, too much to consume, but what are you doing? What are you playing, sir?
Oh, that's a good question. Right now, I have been kind of taking it easy because I've currently had health stuff. So I've been playing weird games like Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. Like I've just been playing kind of weird stuff that's low key.
Have you played Balatro yet?
No.
Or Balatro?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. It's such a fun, non-investment, kind of game that can really suck your time away. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah. And then the other crazy game when I get a chance to hop on to 14 that is known as the Diadem. So I'm currently over halfway through that and halfway through the Pterodactyl.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Question. Are you trying to do all the gathering and then all the crafting? Or are you trying to gather and feed it into crafters and you're going to do all your own gathering? Like what's your strategy there? Assuming you're going for full pterodactyl, you got to do it all.
Yeah, because I'm trying to do it as kind of chillax but min-max as possible. I basically do all the gathering loops and then hit the fish anytime the storms are up, and then I'm hardcore hitting that, and I'm almost most of the way with most of the gatherers, and then I'm just gonna fucking auto build like sit down for a day and do nothing because I have stacks and stacks and
you're
stacks.
You're just filling retainers one after another.
Multiple retainers full of it.
How many retainers?
Currently only 2.
Oh,
but that's also
that's
because
reasonable.
It'll fill a lot.
I've also been a little smart though because I wanted scripts for multiple to get. I have been doing some crafting sometimes just because I wanted to get all the script rewards on alts. And then also I discovered, at least, I don't know if it's true anymore, there was something I was buying that I could buy for one for 200 scripts and then sell it for 5,000 gills. So I was making a bunch from that.
Yes, the conversion rate to script per gill is not
crazy.
Equal. So if you're trying to convert that out for anybody that ends up with all the extra scripts from this, go look up the pricing before you spend your scripts. And then keep in mind, you can flood a market. So if one of the mounts is worth the most, don't just buy 30 of that mount, buy a couple of that mount, and then buy the second most valuable thing and then the third most valuable thing. That way you're kind of diversified.
I'd be honest, probably the smartest thing right now is not to buy the mounts. Although they'll probably give you more money right now. With the 2-die channel, we'll probably talk about later. Remember, there are specific dies that you can buy with scripts, so it might be a good idea to invest into those and hold those on.
Definitely don't have multiple 99 stacks of
there was a hairstyle or something in there for a while that was trading for a lot. It just doesn't sell very often.
It's our own roaring kitty moment.
That's what's nice about the mounts is that the mounts are the safest bet for you'll get maybe these days probably closer to 100,000 gil, but they're safe. And also what will happen is Cosmo Exploration and all the other content happens, fewer people are going and doing Diadem, especially when it's not between expansions. So some of those mounts start going back up in price.
Here's what we need to do. We need to create a new meme. You know how Roaring Kitty tweeted out about GameStop, but it's some Final Fantasy, looking and leaning forward towards dies, and then you just see the whole die market kind of go freaking crazy with all kinds of speculative pricing.
Then you get.
I'm definitely not plotting.
Then you get into the Nance spectrum or whatever, where there's a hedge fund that will let you put your money and it will just auto deploy into whatever Nancy Pelosi, the highest yielding senator, does.
I saw that.
Yeah. But the problem is that it becomes self-fulfilling, right? Because then she picks something and then it has a large surge of purchases. So now it kind of makes her this oracle where she's an influencer. That's the word. I've disliked that influencer word so much over the last 10 years because it's belittling to what the person does, but it's also overvaluing what the person does. But then this is just, it's direct influence, like influence. There is no other term for it.
I'm just looking forward to the Dai Zaibatsu crew, like the Dai Monopoly crews that are going around buying everything up once Dual Die Channels comes up. I mean, really, if they were ever gonna make more dies available to crafters to like for crafting, now is the time, because it's getting crazy.
I mean, the blitz will be fast and then it'll level off.
Yeah.
WoW, when they first added the ability to sort the auction house by transmogs that you don't have, there was this like giant surge. I sold more transmog within the first, I'd say, 10 days than I had in like the last 2 years. But then it dropped right back off, because basically there was a bunch of people who'd always wanted to do it, and they did it, and then they didn't keep doing it.
But so agreed. But the one difference with dies is that they're consumables. That if people start changing their mind, it's like you could say the same thing about Fantasia, but we know how many people drink those things like water.
And we're all getting a free one. And I think I'm going to be going back to the Rogan end. But the other voices you guys have been hearing alongside, we haven't even gotten to them. But I love how I just love our base conversations. Let's go with Gaming Kinda, coming off a 6-hour spreadsheet stream yesterday.
Yeah.
Be sure to go follow him over at Gaming 2 Kinda on Twitch and his YouTube. We'll make sure we have those links in the description for you guys. What's up, Chris?
That was the longest stream I've had in the last 12 months that was not tied to an event that is officially sanctioned by 14. But the Media Tour is an event. And so that was just a chance to sit down, and we found around 40 of the questions from written publications. I think there's probably still more out there. I had a few DMs of a couple more. So I'm trying to get through all the written ones, and then I'm going to go through the videos. So I haven't seen Happy, haven't seen Jesse preach, the whole list. And so I've got them. But I'm trying to get through all of them. It's a much smaller media tour, and we'll talk about that, but that's
okay. I'm not crazy. I thought,
but like,
I know because I'm sad because I didn't get invited this year.
Very few people did.
The caliber of questions are around the same spectrum as before. The caliber of answers have been phenomenal. There have been some truly incredible answers because he wasn't trying to give. I think last media tour he gave something like 67 interviews or something silly, and so I think he was just like next one. So I think there were even some questions I really didn't like the question, and they got some great answers regardless.
Chili, what's going on with you, sir?
Not much, to be honest. I'm working on the fishing achievement for ocean fishing. I am really close to getting the 1 million points. I think, one more boat away from it. One good boat, and then I'll have the 1 million, or 2 really bad boats, depending on RNG. So then I'll have to fish, and then I'll have to start working on the 3 million for the trawler. So, by the way, you were talking about Diadem. I was looking at my Fisher achievements recently, and I cried inside. I cried inside so badly.
From pride or from despair?
Yeah, I was looking at my achievements, and I got the Saint title right on the 4th time. The Saint of Forbidden stuff came out. The Ishgard Restoration. Right, I got the Ishgard on the 4th time, and I was looking at my achievements, and for the 3rd Ishgard Restoration, there was a title for catching 300 high quality special fish. The green, green unique fish. There was a title for catching 300. I had caught 299.
Wow,
that is despair. That is Endsinger worthy level psychic damage.
If I'd caught one, if I just caught one more,
just one.
All right.
As far as me, like I stepped back into Elden Ring this last week and it's just so freaking wonderful. You
excited for Shadow of Retreat?
Well, I want to beat the Elden Ring before I even pick up the expansion, so I hadn't beat it. I'm still on my first playthrough. But the thing is, I found that after coming off of No Rest for the Wicked, like my Elden Ring skills have been greatly enhanced. So there's just like there's a natural skill that I guess these games kind of demand, that it has been honed. Even in that different kind of perspective. And then also I've been stepping into some more Enshrouded this last week as they rolled out their patch number 2 and so much more. And I just adore that game. I haven't put enough time into it, as most games go with me, but it's just one of these games that I'm just like, I feel like getting on and just kind of trying to build more than anything else and actually do the RPG mechanics, but we're having a good time there. Now, I want to talk to you guys before we get into the media tour stuff, because there's two stories that are technically like, I kind of just sandwiched them together. First and foremost, yesterday over on like X and Twitter, there was a little bit of console war going on, saying that Final Fantasy XIV is a horribly selling game over on the Xbox. And I thought that was a very interesting and, obviously engagement focused take that people are putting out. And then in marrying that into this, again, like two stories coming into one for this discussion, New World's coming to consoles. That information, the PS5 shot of the store accidentally went up, and then they quickly pulled that back down. But that's going to be one of the announcements that is made about that game. And as MMOs on consoles go, I think it's an interesting little bit of discussion we can have, because Final Fantasy XIV is such a bit, been such a powerhouse, been so long needed on the Xbox, but then obviously people are trying to use that to score console points. What do you guys think?
I think what's the benefit of that? Also, are people saying it's selling poorly on the Xbox based off of any actual like public data we have, or is it just
fell out of the top 400 most purchased games on a console?
But it's also Dawntrail's not out yet. Wait till the marketing hits hard when like Dawntrail's out, and for the then look at it. Like that's way more interesting.
And it's not a game that's meant for like cult explosion of purchases. We were talking about this on stream yesterday. Like I was asking everybody, like, how many hours, like Brian, you pull it up, if you can, and if you can pull it up right now, how many hours do you have in Elden Ring right now? We're asking people, how many people do you have in Helldivers? How many hours do you have in Monster Hunter? And, people were naming hours like 10, 18. 50, 100, 300.
Yeah. I have 500 in Elden Ring.
Do you feel like at 18 hours, do you feel like you're new?
Yes,
like
I still feel new, but I'm starting. Yeah, go ahead.
500. Do you feel new?
Heck no. I've been playing FromSoft games so long. I'm like 10 hours in, and it's exciting, but like I'm still feeling old hat by the time.
So then we went on to everybody log into 14 that can right now and put up your /played, and we were seeing 3,000, 6,000, 9,000, 14,000 hours. So like, it's not a game about purchases. It's a game about active players.
A marathon, not a sprint.
Right. And it's not even about active every month. It's, are they active at least once a year? So like that's plenty.
Question about that. Is that just people purchasing the game? That's not like revenue or profits or anything, right?
Right.
Because like
ignoring subscriptions, fan pages, like all this others.
Yeah.
They're like, purchases, is that on our balance sheet?
If you keep like a quarter of the players, like you're still going to be making more than most.
How many could be in the free trial right now? How many Xbox players could still be in the 900-hour free trial right now?
Also, and is it a healthy amount? Even if it's not top like 10, is it a healthy amount? Because if it is, then it doesn't matter.
I just want to also add that remember that things that are purchased via Game Pass are not also counted in this number. So anything that is included in
connected,
and Game Pass gave a Star Edition for free. So a lot of people would have claimed that for free, and then are waiting for the complete edition with Dawntrail, because there's no point buying the complete edition now, because then you get Endwalker, and then you have to purchase Dawntrail. So it's people are waiting till then. And from what I've heard, I can't remember exactly this, but Final Fantasy XIV is still in the top 100 games played on Xbox currently. So it's still in the top 100 being played, and it was number one, beating even Fortnite when it launched originally in the free-to-play category, which is what the the trial edition is counted as.
This feels like
it's probably dropped down by now, but
there's 159 hours of cutscenes in Final Fantasy XIV. So if you played them back to back, even on your phone, so you can get up and carry it with you to the bathroom, into the kitchen to eat, just back to back, and you did not sleep, you would get to sleep the remaining 9 hours in a week. That's it. You'd be done. The whole week would be done. There's 168 hours in a week, and that's the cutscenes. That's not every other scene in MSQ. That's not all the gameplay. That's not all the travel. And that's before you even get to the things that people patch over patch call content. That's just doing the thing that the community, at least loudly, claims is the best part. but relative to the total play hours is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah,
the MSQ is a drop in the bucket.
The other thing,
like a
go
nothing burger for anyone who's been a long-term,
Yeah.
not even like player of like 14 or anything, just like been around the scene, like video games for like this is the mindset of like the console wars of the like 80s and 90s of like, oh man, you know, like it's so stupid.
And who does it like benefit? Like it's like, oh, WoW came to console and Final Fantasy within 90 days dropped out of the top 400, even though it'd always been there. Okay, right. Well, that's like an interesting conversation. Like, what is happening? Like, did WoW take its spot? Like, but instead, it's like, no, it just seems like it organically moved to where it probably belongs.
There's a level of like what I talked about, you know, and when I kind of saw the story the other day was we are actively telling people not to purchase the game, especially if they're brand new, because Xbox locks you into both. You have to have gold to be able to play, and if you buy the game, if you pick up that starter edition, if you you know, pick up Dawntrail and hand Square Enix money, you're locked into the service, the subscription model forever. You'd have to create a new free trial account and a new Xbox account to do so. So the best advice that we have given, especially new players, is take full advantage of that free trial. Like, don't, especially with Dawntrail right around the horizon, just pick up the complete edition rather than buy it and then buy it again. And that's where it's like,
even then, don't pick up the complete edition until you're ready to engage in that content.
Yeah,
because you can't start the Endwalker stuff and the Dawntrail stuff, like all this recent stuff, until you finished the stuff that you already have access to. So get done with Stormblood, which if they just picked it up and they're just kind of exploring the game organically, that could be months.
Yeah, easily.
Also,
and sorry. Go ahead, Chili. No, go ahead, Chili.
Also, another way that will, in my opinion, it doesn't slow down the Xbox version, but it adds another barrier of entry because you have the Xbox Live, you know, you need Game Pass, but also if your Xbox is the only version of Final Fantasy 14 that you own, you also have to buy Xbox dollary dues or whatever they're called, because
Xbox
it actually has
14 coins. Yeah,
it has its own completely separate currency that you have to use to buy subscription model. So you have to buy this Xbox currency that you then use to buy your Final Fantasy 14 subscription or your store items. I keep wanting to call it Mog Station still, but you know what I mean, the store items.
Box station.
You know,
I was just going to say, like, the thing that's weird to me is just like, to me, the Xbox version always on a certain level, like I had to be profitable, but was kind of like a public service, you know, for the game, right? It makes 14 more accessible. So like, as if it's not even like if the news was the Xbox version is now operating at a cost instead of like profit or something, like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. But beyond that, there's like just no really interesting take around it, I guess. Maybe if it was number one for like ever.
Yeah, unless you're trying to also engagement form. I think that's the, like, when it comes to Twitter, like that's the literal, I was like, this just seems like a non, you know, kind of like issue for anybody who's in the know. But the point is that obviously the danger is that a lot of people might be like, oh, I was thinking about picking up Final Fantasy 14 and it's not doing well or whatever. And it's like, no, the marketing will hopefully help override anybody's kind of weird take over on the platform. And it's going to be great because, you know, Dawntrail gets to launch. A lot of people who are experiencing the game the first time through that free trial will be able to kind of decide whether they want to really kind of commit into the game and the ecosystem. And everything I've seen from the media tour has been very interesting regarding Dawntrail, minus, like, you know, obviously, Chris, you expressed some frustration about some of the interviews that you were going through. So why don't we toss to Chris right now? Like, how are you feeling sans media tour information? Obviously there's so much. I'm still consuming it. I've consumed quite a bit, but I feel like I'm, you know, getting caught up.
I think, first of all, a little bit of a disclaimer on like what the media tour is.
Okay.
Before I kind of state my frustration, because I want it to be in the context of like, this is my understanding of what a media tour's objective is. A media tour's objective is not to get the most excited fans into a room and show them the game so that they can go back to the people who already pre-ordered and tell them about what they learned. It is a press event with the goal of hitting a wide-reaching swath of people, ideally that are on the verge of or would consider pre-ordering, that in many cases haven't, while of course tossing a little bit of fan service at the people who are excited so that they want to play the game on day one. Which means if you have 10 content creators who all have overlapping audiences within the 14 community, you don't need to invite all 10 of them. You have a limited number of spots. So you're going to pick a few of them, and that way they can carry that information back to that community. But then you're going to use those remaining chairs to maybe reach out to somebody that's typically more in the ESO space or the Guild Wars space or the WoW space, or just general MMOs, so that that information gets out to people who maybe played several years ago or have always considered playing, and helps kind of convert. So within that, like, I know a lot of the questions are coming from people who don't know or don't actively play, or maybe haven't really played a lot of 14. Where I was running into frustration, though, was there was a couple of questions in the interviews that were phrased as like, and now's when I got to ask the hard-hitting questions. And so they were self-proclaimed as like, these are the real questions. And they were questions that we already had answers to. Answers to in recent interviews, in recent fan fests. Where I was impressed was outlets who said, hey, based on Live Letter 81, this is what I'm understanding to be. Can you elaborate a little on that? Yeah. Even if it came from a person who maybe it was kind of clear from other portions of their writing that they maybe haven't beaten the game. Maybe they haven't beat the base MHQ. They're just aware of it. But like, just general legwork from the press.
Did the due diligence to get good questions regardless.
And all I've been working on is the written interviews. So I'm coming from the people who are going to be more journalistic. So I just expect like a base amount of Googling to take place. And I haven't. Yeah, and like, and so I got frustrated when that was not the case.
I will say that my impression of most of the journalistic outfits is that they are much more likely to be skewed towards people who haven't finished the MSQ or aren't as engaged in 14. So like, while I agree that you would hope that they're more likely to do the research, they're also more prone to be initiated.
Because they may do these events for 10 MMOs within a year.
Yeah.
How can they possibly stay caught up to on all 10 MMOs? But it just felt like, I don't know, watch the opening announcement from the most recent FanFest. Like, just go through that slideshow at 2 times speed. Like, it didn't feel like a huge ask. So especially when they're going to self-proclaim, there was like a bulk Q&A that was done as a group. And then they're like, and here's my 3 real questions. And one of them said, and I quote, the questions everyone wants to know. Yeah, they did want to know. And then they told us. Like we already have that information.
Question here: to play a devil's advocate, that I don't support this, but do you think there's a value in them asking redundant questions in the venue of media tour, and that it's more likely to be disseminated to people who may not have watched FanFest?
It depends on the presentation. So last year, Annie Fuchsia asked a couple of questions that had been asked at multiple press events and multiple media tours over the past, but she asked them in a way of, I'm a World of Warcraft player. This is my understanding. What is your stance on the following? And so her interview in particular, I remember at the time, my initial reaction to the question was like giant head altering eye roll, but it resulted in these answers that, because of the way she asked and because of the perspective she's coming from, came from this really thoughtful place from Yoshi P, and then resulted in her saying to the community, as somebody that's new to the community, I think it's really awesome to know the game is headed in this direction. So there was this point of like, I didn't know this, and other people of my community may not have known this as well, as opposed to some of these press articles were written in I'm kind of an expert on the game, and that's why I got invited, and these are the questions you want to know. So, pretty much breaking it down.
We're not bitter at all. We're not bitter at all.
It was just so arrogant in the way that it was written that I didn't feel it was the same. Like, hey, many new players might take the expansion as a chance to try this game. There are some things they may want to know that aren't obvious on the surface. That would be a much more welcome place to ask a question that we've heard before. And some of the questions that we've heard before, like Polygon asking about the Latin data center, resulted in new answers.
Yeah.
So that's the like there's sometimes value in those of us that have heard the answer 10 times. We go, I heard it 10 times. I'm not going to ask an 11th. But like, things change. We've been covering this game for a long time. Yoshi P's been on this game 10 years. And then chat was like, isn't it longer than 10 years? And we looked and it's like, yeah,
I keep having to bring this up, but the fact that even at most recent or JP Fan Fest, Yoshi P was like, we might actually consider adding new playable races. It was just like, you know what? Everyone should just ask Yoshi P the same questions all the time because I feel like you're just going to get a different answer every year.
Do you think there's been a kind of a closure of the Blitzball kind of question, because that felt like
yes,
from Happy,
I can tell you that now. Yes.
Yeah.
If you had Happy's video, he said before Mr. Happy could finish the question, he said no.
No.
Yeah.
He said Blitzball, and Yoshi P
like
said
the Pope,
no.
just like no.
It reminded me of when they asked about 1.0 classic servers, and he just went nightmare.
Nightmare.
Like,
No, it wasn't even no.
I'm going to call this. I'm going to call this now.
Physically pained him.
I'm going to say this now. I feel like we won't get Blitzball, but we may get a Blitzball based job.
Oh.
I think we might just get ball blitz.
Keep in mind.
Yeah. It won't be called Blitzball, but it'll be a ball based job.
Snowboarding.
Yeah, and to top that off again, to like just go back to the race thing for a second. Which sounds weird out of context.
Let's get back on that race train.
Just like even that is static as a no. Which look, I love Blitzball, so high copium here. So clearly, but honestly, in the past I would have been like, okay, we're not getting it. Firmly, they've said it, but like. Chris knows more than anyone. He, the Yoshi P, will say we cannot do X, and then we will get X 2 to 4 years later. So I don't know. I mean, I believe him right now. Does that count?
I think what's interesting is about what we've gotten from the media tour when we talked about kind of the dies and the dual channels. From a technical perspective, one of the concerns going into Endwalker was we kept seeing this restriction, this, things are getting removed. But Dawntrail feels like things are getting inserted, things are getting added. And that tells me from a tech stack perspective and a tech debt, which Yoshi P said they have no tech debt. And that's a complete and, total fabrication because everybody has tech debt. That isn't something you just get rid of. It's just something you try to manage.
We have some technical things we owe, but it's not like a debt per se.
My impression from that is definitely 1.0. I think seems to be like his what he seems to be saying in that, but also, it's just you probably have tech debt from Endwalker that they're still dealing with somehow.
Right. And that's just a natural thing that within the development process people have to manage. But that's something when we look at the game and how they're adding in the graphics interface updates, how they're adding it, the graphics changes. I was like, those look great. When it's all put together, it looks way better than what it does at the moment. But the big news was the 2 channels, the 2 dies, because that has been something that has been fundamentally restrictive. And then when I saw that, I was like, oh, they've solved so many of the memory backend issues. This is just another springboard. And we kind of got teased that from Yoshi P's last live letter where he started talking about just wait till 8.0. It's like, so they're, I think, firing on all cylinders with Dawntrail.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of content creators, what we've seen with the graphical update is nowhere near as good as the actual graphical update that's actually in the game that when you see it yourself. So a lot of them have said that it looks even better in person than any of the streams.
Right.
Yoshi P being slightly conservative on promises? No.
Yeah. And have you seen the UI for the double die? It looks really cool. The UI for the double die system looks amazing. Before we carry on now, I just want to say, when it comes to people and the media tour people to go for questions, it can also be really frustrating for the press because, I know that as someone who's been part of the media for about 10 years now and been part of a press site for over 10 years, sometimes you end up having to send people that have no idea with the game, but only because they live close enough to the event that they're able to go there versus those that would have to travel a distance. But let's just say you're invited to an American event, but your European staff are the ones that know the game. You still have to send the American staff because that's in the budget. So
the ROI on sending somebody from Europe, that ROI wouldn't cover it for especially a niche game.
As a fan, right? It's not my job as a fan to go, oh well, let's just excuse bad questions. I understand that. That's very good context. But as a fan, the frustration is still just okay, but they invited an outlet and we got a bad question, and they could have invited somebody that did live closer from a different outlet and we would have gotten a better question.
Oh, yeah.
Did anything surprise you guys from the media
it's still
tour?
frustrating for me.
Yeah.
I mean, so far, and actually, I would love to test the waters on this with you guys. So far, no, nothing has surprised me. I mean, maybe no Blitzball. But like, it's kind of the job action trailer to me. It kind of encapsulates this, which is like, as much as things are being added to the game, I feel positively underwhelmed with like a lot of the things that we've learned that were non-FanFest like information about jobs and stuff. And like all the jobs feel highly iterative to me. In a way that even like Endwalker was accused of, but even more so, like everyone's just like kind of a slight bump. And like I can't think of any announcements so far. I mean, really, but that's also because like the things that were the most exciting, most of which came out in NA FanFest, or like things like dual die channels or like that sort of stuff, at least to me.
The better questions for me, Polygon's article was written by a pretentious dick. But
we here at Work the Game love to hold our bars.
The question was, we'll call this a question. Like when asked about the obvious nods to Latin America and Dawntrail, and then there was like a whole question about like how they're doing contextualization, and Yoshi P did a really great job of kind of talking about like the number of people and the number of checks that are involved. And it just reminds you of like the level of investment the game gets now versus when it was just trying to get feet underneath it. And I found that really impressive. And it went on to say, when asked about the possible official support for Latin America, such as Brazil, Mexico, and then it goes, given the dose of inspiration, as if it's like, we should only give them server access because of the location where the game's taking place. Otherwise, screw them. But like, there's been a lot of questions about a Latin American data center for several expansions now, because we do have a large population of players that are stuck trying to connect to North American servers. And that means that it doesn't support localized currencies. And then there's no localization for any version of Spanish or similar language. And he went on to kind of talk about, first of all, the big thing that he said was the physical. All right. He mentioned that having a physical data center for Latin America is technically possible and not that difficult of a task to do, so to speak, which tells me a lot about the rollout of the Oceanic data center. And so that I found that like really insightful, because we haven't heard a lot about the Oceanic data center. Like they've been using it as like a launching off point for cross region play, because it sounds like the Oceanic data center is not that populated. So we don't really hear back. They're not going to announce like, well, that didn't pan out. And so like, because a lot of Oceanic players were already established in other communities and didn't decide to migrate.
Right.
So
I know more NA players in Oceania than Oceania players in Oceania.
And right. And so it was really hard to kind of gauge, well, how is that going? And like, what is their perspective on that? So hearing him kind of talk about that and go on to talk about like what it would take to add another localization, and that they don't want to add localization unless it can be done internally. So like I found a lot of the behind the scenes and like responses to the community questions more insightful than the ones on the content, because I think they've done such a good job communicating what we're getting. That a lot of the content's like, well, let me rehash this thing I said at FanFest and tell you to wait. So most of those questions didn't give us like maybe they elaborated on a point here and there, a point there, but like we didn't get like a whole bundle of new information. It wasn't like, well, let me explain cosmic exploration. So it was, I found the behind the scenes ones a little more interesting so far.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's where a lot of the interesting stuff comes in for sure. And I'm probably gonna go back through your stream too, since it's all consolidated there. But yeah, just to touch on the like jobs and stuff, I do think it's so hard to say like, oh, there's nothing exciting, but maybe that also has me happy. Like it feels like this is an expansion of like really having a really stable bedrock that is still fun, that then we're seeing a lot of effort also put into. I'm really excited for the encounters and what we'll get from that, and in places from like their emphasis on, hey, we're going to create a lot more rewards this time. It seems like the fundamental bedrock of everything is trying to be expanded on.
Yeah. Anything surprising or exciting to you, Chili?
Not really about the media tour, but I'd like to talk about the data center stuff quickly.
Yeah, that's actually I think was really exciting to hear. Go ahead.
Well, no, there was some news yesterday about the EU data center. Well, there's a new EU logical data center called Shadow being added, which is Innocent, Pixie, Titanium, Tycoon. But what's interesting about this data center that seems to be completely different to every other data center is the fact that I think you aren't able to make any new characters on this data center. This data center is only for people to travel to if they want to. On the Lodestone post, it says these worlds will be released as a probationary worlds to migrate the congestion that might arise with the Dawntrail launch, and will only be available for the purchase of data center travel. So these data centers will be locked off for normal use, but you will be able to travel to them to use them if your server is congested on EU, which is an interesting way to create data centers. To be honest, it's an interesting reason to have them. Like they'll be completely empty otherwise, unless people move to them.
I'll be curious if they can. No, you're good. That's really thanks for bringing that up. That's good to know. I'm curious if they'll continue along the lines of using that as a solution to their concerns about cultural issues between letting everyone go wild on everybody else's servers. So, for instance, if Shadow is the only place NA and other players could go as well, it doesn't matter if the market on it is insane. It doesn't matter because you don't have to worry about new players going to it as much.
Right. It's the portal in New York and Ireland. If you don't want to have a random stranger flashing their boobs or butt at you, it's an isolated location.
Why would you not?
I just love how both sides of that portal were like.
It devolved so.
It devolved on both, but there was something heartwarming
and simultaneously, and both sides are like, we're way more degenerate than you are. Like nobody was offended by the other one side that was participating.
Can I say that it at least took 7 days to go down? The fact that it was up that long to me, I find startling.
Well, another interesting stat, I don't know if you guys seen kind of the news, etc., but Starlink was delivered to a very remote tribe, back in September, and they just reported that all their young men are now addicted to porn, and and they're all sharing all these images through group chat, which when I learned that they were doing group chat, I was like, my parents can't even figure out group chat, and we got some kind of remote tribe out there that's never had technology, and they've got to figure it out.
Not just group chat though, and porn. They're also really addicted to social media.
Yeah,
they really love social media.
Yeah,
life finds a way.
Life finds a way.
Now, I'm gonna have to uninstall the YouTube app from my phone because they put shorts at the top, and it is increasing my user hours. But I actively dislike it because I hop on to watch a 20-minute YouTube video while I'm eating lunch. And I lose an hour, and I didn't even eat my lunch. So, I understand that from their metric standpoint, it's a good metric. It's gonna make me uninstall because I can't do it.
It's not the exact same for me for YouTube, but I had to uninstall Duolingo from my phone because I got sick of it sending me a message saying you haven't done your daily.
Well, just do the Duolingo.
Have you
Don't
heard
watch
of
the owl slowly light on fire?
ChatGPT
2 a.m.
4.0.
It's 2 a.m. in the morning. It's 2 hours into the day, and they're like, "Watch out! You haven't done your lesson today."
Do you follow people that are in other time zones? Because I will tell you, a lot of times it's notifying me because my brother-in-law does his, and he does his when he gets up, and he lives east of me by a couple time zones. So I'll get a lot of North American friends.
Back on the Final Fantasy 14 train here for a second.
It's a pestering owl.
Did y'all see Yoshi P talk about how that he's not worried about servers, that they can spin up new servers at the drop of a hat? Sounds honestly, like they right click add server.
It doesn't break things like it did with New World.
Well, and Yoshi P was already thinking ahead like that during Endwalker. And the bigger problem was they were still in the early stages of it, and supply chains and COVID and all that. So after having to delay it, I feel like every fiber of that man's being, some part of his brain ever since Endwalker has been, what can we do to make sure that never happens again? What can we do to make sure that absolutely never happens again?
One of the things about that, though, just kind of to bring back the New World, as we talked about a little bit earlier, they've added sharding to New World, and they've added cross-server play. So New World is moving in that same Final Fantasy 14. How do we solve the open world and small server kind of approach? And with the console release imminent, I think that's going to end up being a good help. But it is very clear that I do wonder if Final Fantasy 14, with this spin up server, click, with these migrating and roaming data centers, if we don't see them basically foretelling that they are going to be moving into kind of a mega server kind of structure at some point in the future. I wouldn't predict 8.0 based off of just how difficult that probably is, but that seems to be kind of what they've been kind of moving towards slowly but surely.
I feel like the question is more to do philosophical at this point than technical. Like even Yoshi P still apprehension. Yeah.
It's good to see the game grow. The expansion, I think, is well timed. There is a question of this is the first time that WoW and 14 have had an expansion in the same year.
I
saw some questions on that. Like were they worried about WoW's launch? I would like to note, just for the purpose of time, every single WoW expansion has launched in an even numbered year. So it's 14 that came into WoW's space. So before anybody, if War Within gets its date and somebody thinks they're just trying to take 14's, we're in their year. This was an unwritten agreement between the two largest MMOs. We came into WoW's domain. So we'll see what happens with the next one. Based on the patch cycles, it's possible this one slides back into an odd. We may be looking at an over 2-year cycle, so it may always shift even odd from now on.
This summer is just the release of MMOs, isn't it, really, when you think about it? This is the summer of MMOs, because we've got June 3rd / June 18th, depending on if you're a PC or console player. PC player got ESO Gold Road on June 3rd, console get on June 18th. Then you've got Final Fantasy 14 technically in July. I know early access is June, but technically the release is July. So I'm going to count July as the the official release.
Sure.
Then you've got Guild Wars 2 in August. So that's June, July, August. And then let's just say World of Warcraft drops in September. We don't know that, but let's just say September is World of Warcraft. You've then got June, July, August, September with a new MMO releasing.
And these are major long-running MMOs. So this is not talking about any of the new guys or anything like that.
And the new guys are getting PAX Day as a part of early access on the 18th of this month. If you want to spend that kind of money and take that kind of gamble, I'm personally excited about it. You have
I knew that game was changing because I saw a thumbnail the other day that said PAX Day beta server shutting down, and it was the baitiest way to say that the game was finally moving forward. It was
YouTubers, man, you freaking YouTubers. It's the same thing you said about Polygon. That
I need.
You know what the problem is? The problem is it works.
I want the 3 dots. I want to be able to click the 3 dots and say, "Don't show me anything from this channel for 30 days." I just want to just be and you're in timeout.
Yeah, spiteful block.
You're in timeout. That should be what you're I do want to consume your content again,
yeah,
but not for 30 days. You get nothing from me.
See, I time I so rarely use kind of the block or the mute on YouTube. But what I end up doing is at Easter, every year, I just go and refresh it. So if you got put into timeout every year at Easter, I clear out the block list and see if anybody comes back. And I'm just oh, so I did not want to hear back from you.
It's definitely a strategy.
I wish you could tell them why.
Yeah, that'd
be
nice.
Had to mute a channel.
Leave a review for the block.
I muted a channel the other day because they put up community posts 3 times a day. And so it takes up your whole chunk of your feed. And it was just them reposting memes. It had nothing to do with their videos. They had their videos and then they just put up community posts of this meme made me smile. And so it just clogs your feed. And so that's why I muted them. But it's but I like your videos. I just don't know how to shut off your other crap. This is why I like when people make 200 channels, because I can just peace out.
You can choose what you want.
If Brian's I think it'd be fun to post a meme.
I think YouTube could do a better job
for the next 30 days. He could just make a channel for that.
I'm paranoid about that shit. I remember when I first started doing streams, this was back before YouTube had a live tab. Yeah. And so I would unlist streams because I was just so it cluttered everything and people couldn't find videos.
It competes with your videos. So what I've been doing for my streams, I just move those into members only. And so that it's just like, because it's not like, oh my gosh, my content's going to be discovered. Someone's going to sit down and watch 3 hours of me, not live, but formerly live. And I'm like, yeah, there is a small percentage of people who like that. And most likely they were already there for the live anyway, so it's like, hey, and then what I do is been clipping all this stuff up and tossing that over to another channel, which is just kind of the clips channel, which seems to be doing just fine. It's growing.
It's just another way to say that Mrs. Prime is pregnant. I made another channel. Congratulations, boy or girl.
No, we're still locked. We're still locked at 6. If we do pick up a 7th, most likely that'll be through adoption. Which
I can't.
Then you can pick them up 2, 3 at a time. Like you could start.
I was going to
really
say,
rapid fire.
Is our way of locking down Brian's productivity to just say you can only have as many channels as you have children, or is that just playing a different kind of dangerous game?
That's just the meme. So I think it's exciting to see from the server perspective what's like moving forward into it. Yes, I'm with you guys. Like I wasn't really like craving information about the jobs, because I think it's going to be more about how it feels, because we know things will change prior from now to release. So this just gives people the opportunity to get all bent out of shape and misunderstand things and and whatnot, which just can be entertaining. And for the main content creators out there, probably helps feed them for the month leading up to the release. But what I really want to kind of see is how with these controller changes, the replacement ability. I haven't seen too much detail what I'm looking for in that space. So if anybody knows anybody who talked about that in more detail, again, I haven't seen everything. I would love it. Drop the link. Hit me up on Discord. I want to make sure I get some information and insight on that, because I finished the Samurai controller guide that is completing the set for Endwalker. I know it was like right at the finish line. We got them done. And I'm looking forward to actually at least doing the new jobs in Dawntrail. We'll have to see if I had to get addicted back to making those guides again or something like that.
I mean, Pictomancer and Viper are button bloat wise are like they're very like constrained down. There's like there's almost like a simplicity to like their buttons, and that like all the complication comes from like either interactions or buttons flipping into things like continuation on Gunbreaker.
Yeah.
So like I bet they'll be much better for controller play.
Yeah, and that's what I felt like as the new jobs kind of did get introduced. They felt a little bit better, and with the replacement, that's where I'm like, I really hope that this ends up becoming something interesting where people aren't afraid of it, because then I hope that means that we don't see skills leaving the early game just to be kind of reintroduced in a different way at the end game. It's like, let's heck, if they ever decided they're like, we're bringing Stone Skin back, I'd be like, hallelujah. It's like, I love Stone Skin. What's going on?
You keep on hoping. That's definitely.
The hopium runs deep. Now, they also, the logical part of my brain goes, not going to happen. It's like people are like, oh, Brian wants them to kind of redo gear, because that's going to be, I think, a constant critique. When I did a react video, will go up later today on the MMO channel, talking about how Dawntrail's Final Fantasy XIV's last chance to like help solve the problem with veterans. And it's like, all right, that was an interesting, obviously title to catch your eye. But what it really kind of boils down to is that, like, are they going to ever refresh the cycle? And the pros being that people say that they want those things, but the cons being the spreadsheet. Like the game is predictable, and that's actually a strength, because you can schedule your life in accordance with the patch cycle, whether you're a raid logger or you're this or that and the other thing. And so the MMO player in me is like, man, I really wish there was a reason for me to go out and farm gear from whatever that's not just glamour. But then the fact is, like, I'm not playing the game actively. I'm looking forward to Dawntrail. I'm not punished because I stepped away. In fact, I was encouraged to do so.
And I'm definitely one of the people that's all about the give rewards that have nothing to do with power. So I'm basically glam's enough for me. But this has been the point of contention since in Shadowbringers, in Endwalker, in Storm. Like these same comments have been coming up for years and years and years. It's not that I don't think they could ever decide to change, and I don't like it. Literally could just be 8.0. You know what? You were right. We're refreshing it, but I don't foresee that, because the people it benefits is actually to me much smaller than the people who are behooved from not having to stress it being predictable.
Is there any other thing regarding the media tour that you guys want to discuss? Because I think it's about time for 20 questions.
Yeah. I guess that's mainly for me.
That's it. I'm going to consume as many video ones as I can today. It'll probably take me, I don't know, maybe Monday morning. I'll go through a couple more.
Are you going live after this? Okay, guys, just for those of you who are here with us live for the show, note that I'll make sure we get that set up to raid. Is it already scheduled on the YouTube side? Nope. Okay.
I didn't know. I ended up with
you're good.
I was gonna do all that, and I ended up with I bought a used car last month.
Oh, congrats.
It was new to me.
Yeah.
I'd been driving the same car since 2008, but it had a part that was damaged, like an internal trim part, and they agreed to fix it, and so it just came in. So then I swapped my morning plans to drive to the dealership, and now it feels like I officially have like a complete used vehicle. It's great. I'm really excited about it. It's fun to drive, especially in this, like, we've had a lot of bad weather here in Dallas, and I got an all-wheel drive vehicle, so like that's been a real joy.
That's good.
To like stay on the road.
All right, let's jump into 20 questions, and then what we'll do is I'll run the outro, but I'll remain live until you get your stuff scheduled, Chris. Then that way, for anybody who just casually lurking, that we can try to toss that right over to you. And I'll be live tonight for the Summer Games Fest, which I'm really excited to see what news drops tonight for that. So, all right, Chris, you have the game for us to try and figure out. For those of you who are new to or returning after a while and don't know how the game's played, we can ask any yes or no question, and Chris can kind of help guide it. And we've got 20 questions to try and figure out what game is he thinking of.
Okay. Do we start with the year? Do we start with like, is it before or after?
Really, there's no like right or wrong to this. Like whatever you feel. Like there are some strategies, but we've been developing those kind of as a team as we progress through it. So ask whatever yes or no question you want. We'll whittle it down from there.
Is it a game from the 1990s?
Yes.
So the decade, right? You mean
yes?
Yeah.
Between
okay, cool.
January 1st of 1990 and December 31st of 1999.
Cool.
Okay.
Great question.
Okay,
that's an excellent. Yeah.
So we've got the next question in my mind is you try to cut down consoles. So are we talking about, so it's going to be PC? Let's see, 90s. You're thinking PC, Super Nintendo, probably, or PlayStation would be the question. So
how would you phrase a question? Because this is what I'm thinking. Because I agree with you. There's some console generations that happened between 90 and 99. Like if you think about the Dreamcast versus that of the SNES and the, and
I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Chili.
Is it a CD based system?
Oh
no.
Ooh, okay.
That was useful.
That's
okay.
a useful one. That puts it into the
Dreamcast.
Cartridge or PC. Let's see here.
Well, even PC. PC was CD back then, really.
Yeah,
floppy disks. You still had the floppy and the zip disk, so
That's
Chris
true.
could be really.
No one in the 90s would not say that the PC was not a CD-ROM based system. Do you know how much putt-putt I played and missed?
I have yet to pick a game I haven't owned, and so I understand what format each game I owned came in.
Okay, so was it a game for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System?
No.
Was it for the N64?
No.
Oh, snap.
Okay. We should have just asked, is it a Nintendo? That would have
that would have saved us.
Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna ask the British version because it's what I grew up with. Was it on the Mega Drive?
No.
Okay.
I swear to God, if it's a Tiger Electronic game, I'm gonna be mad. 1990s. Okay. Now,
it could be early 90s, which would also count the NES. So, man, I don't want to burn that question though.
I'm just now like literally pulling up the 5th generation video game consoles just to see
that doesn't really much because I would consider the Sega Saturn to be a CD based console because it has the CD drive.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Was this published by a Western publisher?
No.
Oh.
Okay, cool. There we go.
Okay. What is it going to be like what was the thing that Kojima developed on like the original Metal Gear on? Like
PlayStation. NES. The original Metal Gear was NES.
Yeah.
No.
There's the MSX. That's what I'm thinking of. There's a Japan.
Yeah, Japan-based games before the NES. Because remember, he was really pissed off with Metal Gear 2. A lot of people don't know this, but Metal Gear 2 that got released in the West was actually done by Konami and not Kojima. And he got really pissed off that they released a Metal Gear game without his permission. Because he only wanted to make one. He was one and done. But because they made a Metal Gear game without his permission, he got really pissed off and actually made Metal Gear 2 out of spite. So that's why Metal Gear 2 exists, because he was pissed off that they made a sequel.
That seems like Kojima. Okay, so here's the consoles I've got left that would be reasonable: the TurboGrafx 64, the Neo Geo, or the Game Boy. Which the Game Boy would.
If this was a handheld.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because there's also the like Atari Lynx and stuff.
Right. Was this game released on a handheld?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay, that probably makes it the Game Boy, unless it is the Atari Lynx. But
if you a lot of questions to consoles.
Well, that's the thing. It still keeps us in the decade, because the Game Boy Advance was also cartridge based as well.
Okay.
And then they have
okay then. Was it early 90s? Like in 90 to 1995?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so that takes up Pokemon and all that jazz. Game Boy games.
Is this an RPG?
No.
Okay. How many questions?
The fact that he had to think about it tells us something.
We're at 9.
The fact that he had to think about it definitely tells us something. What are some popular Game Boy? All the popular Game Boy games I can think of come out post 95. I mean, there's like Tetris.
This might sound weird, but
no, but that's not 90.
I'm tempted to ask if the hardware was black and white, which I guess green and black more than actually anything, because that way it will guarantee it's Game Boy. Because
sure
anything other than
Boy.
that, yeah. God, imagine if it had been Virtual Boy. Calling that a handheld is a stretch, though.
yeah.
So would that be anyone think about that? Because that way it will rule out the Atari Lynx, right, and stuff like that.
Yeah, because the Lynx is color. I'm trying to think about what it wouldn't limit us on, because there's, again, if it's like a Tiger Electronics handheld, I'm going to be mad.
I don't think you'd go with that, but we never know.
Go for that question.
What's the question?
What was it? Quotation marks, black and white only. Like, did it not support color?
It was monochromatic.
Okay.
I used the words black and white with air quotes, because we all know that it was more green than anything. But
yeah. So do y'all feel strong that this is Game Boy?
I do, but I think I've got a question that will simultaneously give us a bunch of information and confirm it or at least maybe might help. Was the game made by Nintendo?
Yes, the game was published by Nintendo.
Okay.
Published.
So just a couple of things. Right, but so I mean, we could be talking about Kirby's Dreamland. That was in 1992. We could talk Donkey Kong, which was 94. Dr. Mario, which was 1990 on the date. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. We know Chris is a huge fan of Zelda, and he said that he does.
Yeah, but it's not RPG.
Well, that's true. Is Zelda? I guess maybe Zelda's not. Is it classified as an RPG or an action
what's an
adventure?
RPG? That's a nightmare.
Zelda's an RPG, right? I would consider Zelda an RPG.
Let me look at the Zelda.
Is an RPG defined by its mechanics or by the experience of role playing as a character? Because that is the basically divide that for a lot of people.
That's my main issue with
divided by the way it is genred in Wikipedia.
See, on Wikipedia, the genre is action adventure.
That is how we have been playing it, so that it is not an opinion. It gives us an official kind of dictionary for a Scrabble game mentality.
Is this a Zelda game?
No.
Oh, all right. Well, then
okay. Wait, to be clear, he said that it was an RPG, right?
It was not. It's not an RPG.
It's not an RPG.
Zelda is not classified as or at least Link's Awakening is not classified as an RPG. And he did confirm it is not a Zelda game.
I mean, this will probably not limit much, but was it a platformer?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that, in my opinion, rounds it down to stuff like Donkey Kong, Kirby.
Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3 was 94.
Yeah. It's a me, Mario. But he said published by Nintendo, not developed. So I think Wario Land is published as well, but
yeah, but it's published by Nintendo for Wario Land.
Yeah.
Donkey
Kong is rare.
Well, Donkey Kong Country was rare.
Right. Donkey Kong in 1994 for the Game Boy was Nintendo.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why everyone to this day is like, they gave, like, the fact that they gave Rare the right to do Donkey Kong Country is still to this day a bizarre choice, but it would turned out great. Okay, it's a platformer. See, okay, so that makes me also think like original Metroid game. Was it Metroid 2?
That's not a platformer though, right?
The Return of Samus is 91, and it's a it depends on how you want to. I would definitely consider Metroid under that definition of platformer.
I thought they were considered what you call it.
Well, they're now Metrovanias, but
yeah.
Let's see here.
It's an action adventure side scroller game.
Yeah, see that would.
But wait,
this is why we had to set a rule.
Also, it technically it was developed by Nintendo. It was also published by Nintendo, but it was developed by Nintendo R&D 1. So, I'm trying to think about a good okay, what's a good question? But okay, here I got this. Is the aesthetic theming science fiction in some way, like science fiction-y?
No.
Okay, so then it's probably more on the fantasy side.
How many questions are we at?
That was 14.
We're at 15.
Do we want to shoot
We're at 15 now.
Do we want to shoot and lock it and 15? See if it has to deal with Wario at all, or or more,
I got a good question for that.
Yeah.
Does it contain within it as characters from the Mario universe? And not like a random, like really weird, obscure, like they put a fucking Mario face in the background.
No Mario universe characters. All right.
Okay.
Wario is off the table.
That leaves us with
this
Kirby.
might be because considering all the
would we classify Donkey Kong as a Mario universe?
Yes. Yeah, okay. He's in Mario Party. If he's in Mario Party, the answer is yes.
He started in Mario, right? Mario started from Donkey Kong because he used to be Jumpman.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm good with that. I'm good with that mindset.
Yeah. Okay, so okay.
We do have Smash though. Like, would we consider Kirby a part of the Mario universe?
No, because Smash is its own collaboration that Kirby and Mario are both in. It's not that Smash is the Mario universe.
Smash has Zelda.
Yeah, Smash has Zelda.
Smash has
Sonic.
Smash has Solid Snake.
Cool. I just want to make sure. I was like, wait a minute.
Solid Snake in the Mario universe.
Okay, so there's also the other thing is there was the Mega Man games that were on Game Boy and Mega Man platformers. Yeah. That's the two I'm coming down right now.
It was published by Nintendo.
Oh, sci-fi. Right? Yeah, you're right. Good call.
Those are sci-fi based.
Smash has Sephiroth.
This might be a bad question, but is it branded like is it like
does it continue to be used today? Like, is that what you mean?
No, what I mean is like, is it by a third party brand that has been, but like, is it like something that's a commercial brand such as like Disney or
I wouldn't
think it,
I believe this game invented its own IP.
This game invented its own IP. Okay.
So there was not like an IP that fed this game as the
that makes me feel more like it's Kirby than anything, because that's Kirby started on the handheld.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, the Kirby's Dreamland, I'm pretty sure. So Kirby's Dreamland did start on the Game Boy back when he was white instead of pink. Mega Man did not start on the Game Boy.
No, it started on the NES.
There's also Kid Icarus.
I mean, we didn't say that it started on the Game Boy. That just it was on the Game Boy.
Kirby Dreamland's listed as an action platformer.
Was DuckTales a show before it was on the Game Boy?
It was a show.
It was in the comics.
That's what I was trying to think. Like, there's DuckTales, there's Aladdin, There's quite a few, like then there's Batman, there's Tiny Toons, there's like a load of, I don't know when they came out exactly, but there's a load of different like platforming.
Okay.
That would be IP based.
The two I have are either Kid Icarus or Kirby's Dreamland.
Well, do we want to like see if we can cut it down? Is this a Kirby game?
Yes.
Oh,
hey!
So it's 18.
That's a bad question. What I was going to ask.
Well, then wait. So was what we asked earlier was it didn't clarify that it was the game that started the character, right? Or was that part of the answer?
It wasn't the game.
The way he
just asked if it came in as branded.
Okay.
And the way he answered it was that like there was no previous IP this was a new and then Kirby was introduced as Kirby's
We're
Dreamland.
talking about something from the 90s. Like anything could have become anything after the 90s.
Right. Elio, you want to take us in for the slam dunk?
Yeah, I'm good. Okay. Wait, how many questions
You're at 8.
2 left.
You have 2 left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are technically 3. Well, no, because there's only 2 Kirby games that are platformers.
Yeah.
So
Kirby
it's got to be either
Dreamland
is it Kirby's Dreamland?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Brian was on the right path the whole time with Kirby.
Well, I was like, it's like, and then once it was like Mario, as not even here, then baby, man, what a great
I'll be honest,
round.
If you had broken down platforms by asking publisher first, so once you knew it was the 90s, there's too many Nintendo things.
Up.
So you've got to separate Nintendo from the Segas and PlayStations.
We messed that up. Yeah.
So if you had just
that's why I
drifted to publisher, you would have
cut down
immensely. If we had started early on asking that, it's.
By the way,
there's a meta to this game.
Before you said, "Is it a Kirby game?" I was about to ask, "Do you eat your enemies?" I was like, "That's a good way to ask if it's Kirby."
I was like, and then would we debate over Mega Man because when you beat him, you kind of absorb their powers.
Are you consuming the character by taking the power? I mean,
again, would go back to the fact that it's a sci-fi game, so it wouldn't count.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But the humor.
All right, Elio, where can people find you, sir?
Right now, I am taking some time off. I have been having a lot of health issues. So right now, you can't find me doing much other than over on our Discord. You can find us. I've been coming back to do some book clubs regularly on Fridays. And then we do the odd stream from now and then. I will be hopefully coming back, during Dawntrail once everything's all under control. But for now, things are a little low key.
Oh, cool. Chili, where can people find you?
Okay, well, you can find me over on twitch.tv/Muguram Radio, where we stream Final Fantasy 14 often from 8 o'clock BST. Tonight, of course, we'll be streaming the Summer Game Fest, co-streaming it. Also, we'll do a podcast every 2 weeks normally, where we talk about Final Fantasy 14. But due to the media tour information, we are currently doing a podcast every week of June to discuss all the different jobs and the changes. So we had a recent episode with healers. We had this week's we had an episode with range physical. Next week we have range magical, and then we have melee after that. So we're going to have an episode every week where we discuss all the different media tour job changes, and of course we'll sprinkle in all the other stuff in interviews in between that.
Whenever you do tank, I'd love to join.
Tank would be the end of the month when it's about to drop because timing. So I'm still not sure if we're going to do one yet, but would love to.
No one loves the tanks.
Well, no, it's just time. I don't really want to do more than one episode a week, and
just Josh.
If we still do one episode a week, it's still going to be tanks will be the 27th. So just before early access, which is the 28th, right?
Very nice. Do it when servers go down while everybody's waiting during the maintenance.
So yeah.
Chris, where can people find you?
Anyway, thank
you. Gaming Kinda here on YouTube and Gaming 2 Kinda here on Twitch. And that is where I'll be live immediately after this.
And what we'll be doing, guys, for those of you, again, that are with us live, I'll run the outro. We'll do kind of a traditional outro, and then we'll be able to raid and toss over to Chris once he gets that all scheduled. So thank you guys so much for joining me. We'll be back next week with even more news and what's going on, especially with Summer Games Fest. And there's going to be all kinds of announcements. So hopefully you guys come and check out the podcast as well. And if you guys like podcasts in audio format, be sure to check the top link in the description. You can get to wherever you consume podcast platforms as well. And if you're watching on the video, you're now seeing a very cute Gobby plushie, which I'm incredibly jealous of, and probably will need to go get one of those. Anyway, all right, guys, so much. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.